welcome everyone to another Saturday, another MandoLessons live, noon Eastern Standard Time most Saturdays. Looks like we got a bunch of folks here already. Great to see everybody. We've got Lewis from Indiana, JN from Idaho, Sheldon, yes, it's Liberty for this week, and Jay Vincent, this week's tune is Liberty. I just played a little bit of it. I'm a champion at forgetting what tune it is, so I thought I'd start this week with the tune that we're going to play at the end of the live stream. We'll all play and jam it out together from the comfort of our own homes. But yeah, this week's lesson, or this week's tune, jam along tune, is Liberty. Vancouver Island, Ohio, Plymouth, Minnesota. The chat jumped here. Ohio, Plymouth, Minnesota, Tel Aviv, Georgia, California, Northern Ireland, Alabama, Norway. Hey, Alf, good to see you. JN, thank you so much. Saying the new album is great. I just put out an album with my friend Noah Fishman. It's available all over the place. There's a couple videos there's one video that's come out. There's a couple more coming soon. And you can listen to it, stream it, and download it over on my website under the shop page. It's the first one up at the top. I put it up there recently. Sweden, all right. Georgia, Pennsylvania, Iowa, West Virginia. All right, people from all over the place. Great to see you all. See a bunch of familiar names. Some people I haven't seen before, so welcome if this is your first time. We like to keep these things nice and informal, but the way this works is it's pretty much wide open Q&A. You got things you've been working on the mandolin. I love hearing what everyone's been working on, and I'm happy to help out in any way I can. I'm happy to try to do some requests as long as they're not covers and things that are going to get flagged for copyright. So only traditional requests, please. And I'm also a champion of not remembering how tunes go or how they start or the names of them, all that sort of thing. So no promise that I'll know the tune you want to hear, but I'll do my best. All right, even more people. Manchester, England, New York, East Tennessee, Beijing, Ontario, Yorkshire. Amazing. So I just started with the tune Liberty, which we're going to be playing later. Maybe I'll play another tune here real quick and let some questions roll in. What's it going to be, though? Apparently it's going to be in the key of G. Oh, here's a nice tune, Irish tune. There's a tune that, like I was saying, I can't remember the name of right now. It's got something to do with like favorite or somebody's favorite. Maybe somebody out there can help me out with the name because I'm totally blanking on it right now. But a great Irish tune. Oh, what is the name of that? That's going to bug me. I play that tune all the time. JN says, I've got a friend who makes wooden picks. Have you ever played with one? I have. They're not my favorite, but they're very cool. I know some people love them. They're often a little thicker just because of the nature of wood. They kind of need to be thick to be strong, and they're a little thicker than I usually like. But, yeah, you know, I think there's a lot of people making a lot of picks out of a lot of cool materials, and the best thing to do is try them all out and see what you like the sound of and like the feel of, and whatever's the right match for you is great. Joanne, hello from Ontario. New to this by 3 days. Awesome. Welcome to the wonderful world of mandolins. Glad you could join us. If you haven't already, check out my website, MandoLessons.com. By the way, my name is Baron Collins Hill. I often forget to introduce myself in these things. But yeah, I run the website, MandoLessons.com, which is probably how you found this live stream. But just in case anyone doesn't know about the website, that's where all this stuff is hosted, as well as on YouTube. Hundreds of free lessons, lots of resources. This stuff is always free, but I'm also seeing a bunch of people here from my Patreon community. There's a bunch of Patreon members in the audience where you can get access to lessons a day early, free play-along track downloads. I do one of these live streams once a month just for patrons, and that's always a lot of fun. And it's great to see you all you patrons out there in the chat. There's quite a few of you here already. Let's see, where are we at in the chat? Kid on the Mountain. I could play a little Kid on the Mountain. That's a great tune. Cool. Josh has learned 2 tunes so far this week, Ashokan Farewell and Cherokee Shuffle. Both great tunes. Also working on double stops. You've been keeping busy. That's what I like to see. Keep up the good work. Michael says, do you have a process for learning a tune? Do you start with the melody or the chords? How do you bring it to a performance level? Great question. I think in general, if we're just talking about kind of fiddle tunes, I'll start with the melody. So, take the tune like Liberty. And then the A part again, get just the bare skeleton under my fingers, and then the B part. And the B part again. Really get that, play that through so you can play it through 3, 5, 10 times in a row and not make any big mistakes, and really get it so it feels comfortable under your fingers. Then start thinking about the chords a little is definitely good. Yeah, dum 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 da diggy diggy dum dum da dum da diggy diggy dum dum da dum da diggy diggy dum diggy 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 dum. So then you got the chord and the melodies, and from there you can really start. By the time you can play it through 5 times through without making any mistakes, you're gonna have played it a lot more than 5 times just to get it into your head, and at that point, you're really going to be locked into the tune, have a sense of the chords, so you can start throwing in double stops with the right strings underneath and double stop notes that'll match up with the chat, match up with the chords, and just sort of start filling it out. You can do little variations, improvisation, things like that. So you're taking your skeleton melody. You can maybe turn that into adding slides, double stops, little variations on the melody, things like that. And it's a lot of fun. And really, the more time, repetition is your best friend with this and so much of music. Just take a tune and just play it and 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 play it. I've been playing a lot of these tunes that I have on my website for the better part of 10 or 15 years, maybe more in some circumstances. And I think every time I play a tune, I learn a little bit more about it, and really kind of getting into the zone and figuring out, like, okay, I'm really just going to play this one tune. I've been in jams where one tune has happened for a whole hour. Just one tune, nonstop, and it's great. So, repetition is a big part of what's going to get you comfortable with the tune and comfortable with kind of varying the tune and sort of, like you said, putting it into a performance level. But you can also just play the skeleton melody for performance too. That's totally fine. Oops, the chat just jumped. All right, glad to see everything. All right. Got more folks joining in. Ohio. Got some other stuff I can't quite follow. Having a problem with buzzing strings, mainly the A and D strings. Do you know what the reason for that could be? Check out on my website in the Technique and Fundamentals section. I'm actually going to look it up, because I know I've got a couple lessons on... Oops, that's not right. I have a couple lessons on how, like, kind of diagnosing that sort of thing. And I just want to point you in the right direction. Where is it? I know it's in here somewhere. Huh, I can't quite find it on my website. I know it's somewhere. There's basics. Okay, yeah. So in the basics section of the Technique and Fundamentals section of my website, I've got setting up your mandolin part 1 and 2, and I go through all the different things that may or may not be causing string buzzes, be it sounding like your mandolin's out of tune, all that sort of stuff. That should probably, if it's any of that stuff in there that you can kind of diagnose, that's great. If not, it's going to be something you should bring it to a musical instrument repair person to take a look at. But there's any number of things it's kind of hard to diagnose without holding the instrument sometimes. So look at those videos and see if you can figure out what's going on. Miss Maddie says, I've heard that the mandolin is easier to learn than the guitar. Is this true? What do you think? I think it really, that's a good question. I think easier and harder can be tricky terms. I think it's maybe got a slower learning curve, because so many of I remember like picking up a guitar before I ever played any music, and somebody being like, all right, here's a G chord. It's this big twist of fingers. And then you got these big bar chords, which I still can't really do on guitar. And being like, wow, this is a big instrument. And then somebody showing me some chords on a mandolin years later. And probably because I was kind of a little more dexterous, being a little older. And also just having like these 2-finger chord shapes, really was like, oh, 2 fingers down, I can do that. And that sort of gets you playing music pretty quick. Some people find this kind of the small scale length of the mandolin and the frets being so close together making it easier. Some people find that making it harder. That's sort of personal preference. But yeah, I think on mandolin you quickly get into more kind of melodic driven stuff with fiddle tunes and bluegrass and solos and things like that. Whereas guitar, you know, people spend their whole lives and careers just playing chords on guitars. And sort of the melodic side is not quite as widespread as it is on the mandolin. There's lots of people who play melodies on the guitar, but you don't necessarily have... I don't know many mandolin players who just play chords. A lot of people will do some amount of melodic playing as well. Gail from Montana, good to see you here. My darling asleep, yes. There we go. A little bit of My Darling Asleep. I jumped right into that one. I often have trouble remembering that tune, but when I say the name, sometimes the tune pops into my head, so I had to jump on that one while it was in there. Great tune, one of my favorite Irish jigs of all time. Gail says, working on learning 3-note chords, and then the chat jumped. Let's see. 3-note chords, jamming with cowboy singer guitar guy. Cool. Awesome. That's a great... I think the mandolin and the guitar combined together is one of the greatest duo combinations that there is. They really complement each other nicely. Good morning from Charlotte. Good to see you here, Stephen. So yeah, saying it happens sometimes when the string, getting some buzzing when the strings are open means, again, take a look at my videos and that'll point you in the right direction. Yeah, it could be the action being a bit low. Greg has a common question. He says, when I use your sheet music from the website that you have, I can play the tune, but I have lots of trouble with using the chords at the right place in the tune, if that makes sense. Definitely. I think something that's helpful for a lot of people in that respect is looking at the play-along tracks and just doing, like, having the mandolin play through at a nice slow speed and see if you can just hit the chord once, you know. So if we were working on Liberty, key of D, and it's going to go. But when you get to that F sharp 2nd fret on the E string, that's where you're going to see a D chord above. So it's going to go ya da dum 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 da ga da ga dum, then a G chord, ya ba da ba da, then a D chord, ya ba da ba da, then an A chord, and then a D chord. So that's just like no strum pattern. So just trying to get like the chord at the right place. And this works whether you're working on tunes or songs. It can really be either. Da da dum 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 da ga da ga dum, and a G chord. Daddle deedle dum, it's a D chord. Da ba diddle dum, it's an A and back to D. And then you can add in sort of when my foot's naturally tapping. Da da dum 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 da ga diggy dum dum dum, etc. So let's just try strumming on the foot tap. Da da dum 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 da ga diggy dum. They're all downstrokes. Da ga diggy dum da ba dum 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 da ga diggy dum. Then an A chord and then a D chord. So kind of working your way up from just like one chord when the chord changes to a basic downstrum pattern just on like the major beats of the tune, and from there you can start trying to get in your that sort of fancier guitar style strumming with the alternating bass and the little upstrokes. And I think, you know, there's something that a lot of people ask about. You're not alone there, and I think, you know, taking it from as kind of fundamental of a chord idea as you can and building onto it from there. How many G runs can you find in all the keys? Well, if it's a G run, it's going to be in the key of G. But I think I know what you mean. Like on guitar, there's 3 in the key of G, and then let's see. And there's that one in A flat. You can really do any number in any number of keys, and that's just one particular G run. You know, you can also have like the ending sort of thing. Depends on your definition of G run. But you know, if you got something in your head, try to work it out in a couple different octaves. Try to work it out in a couple different keys. Always fun. Michael, thank you so much for the Super Chat donation. Super Chat is a way that people can support me through the YouTube kind of formula. The chat section, there's a little way you can send a little money my direction, which is always appreciated. All my stuff is always free, but Some people choose to do that. Always greatly appreciate it. Helps me do these every week that I'm around and put out new lessons. So thank you again, Michael. Love your Celtic mandolin. What kind is it? This is so yeah, I'm playing an oval hole mandolin today. This is a Gibson from 1924. It's this kind of straight A. They made a bunch of A models. There's the A Junior, which is a little less fancy than this, then the A, then the A1, which is a little more fancy than this, A2, A3, A4. And as the numbers go up, they get more and more kind of fancy with binding and inlay and a sunburst finish, all that sort of stuff. But they mostly use the same woods. And yeah, I like this mandolin a lot. I think it really shines nicely for Irish tunes. It's not the most kind of powerful chopping mandolin, but it's got a nice kind of change of sound from your average F-hole mandolin. So Tyon City, I don't know how to say this name. There's so all of this stuff that you're asking about raising and lowering the action, that's all in those videos. Shenandoah Breakdown in the key of A. I cannot ever remember how that tune goes. I should look that one up though, because that might be a trad tune. And I definitely used to know it. Lauren said, "Is that a different Gibson?" I've had this one for a while. I did have another one before I had this one, but I've had this one for a couple years now. I had an A Junior before this one, and then the same year, but this is now the A, so one step up. But I just like mostly the sound. I'm not one to worry too much about looks and stuff. You know, this thing's almost 100 years old, and it's in pretty good shape, but you know, I don't care too much personally about like the binding and inlay and stuff like that. It's mostly about the sound for me. All right, Richard, hello from Oregon. Good to have you here. Yep, we got some nut problems. Cool, I'm glad you're enjoying the chat. Tyon City. And again, apologies about the pronunciation of your screen name. But yeah, there's a lot of super helpful people here. I always love doing these, and I'm glad you're here too. Thanks for joining us. Girl I Left Behind Me. That's a great tune you just learned. I'll play a little bit of that one since you mentioned it. 1924, Uncle Bobby, is the year this thing was made. it is, a little Girl I Left Behind Me. Great tune. There's another version of that tune that's got a different B part. Maybe it's in a different key. Oh no, I get it mixed up with another tune. But anyway, check out Raina Gellert. She's got a version of Girl I Left Behind Me that's got a cool B part that I used to know until I learned a tune that gets me mixed up between the two. The Pelican says, can you run licks in A to D, A to E to A? So A, D, A, E, A, D, A, E, A. So maybe there's our progression. A, D, A, E, A. Let's see. So I gotta do A, E, A. A, E, D, A, E, A. A, E, A. A. So yeah, there's a little something. I'll zoom in and give you an idea what I'm doing here. So starting out, it's all in the A and E strings, 4 and 5, and then 4 and 3, and then 5 and 2. So we have, this is our A chord, and then a little passing A dominant 7 to 5 and 2. That's our D chord. So we have A, A7, D. So then we're back to that A chord, 4 and 5. And then 2 and 4 is our E chord. We're going to slide that up 3 frets, which is still an E chord, but it's got a D in it on that 5th fret of the A string, which gives you an E dominant 7. And then back down to 4 and 5 is your A. So you have A, A7, D, and then back to that A, E, E7, A. Again, 4 and 5, 4 and 3, 5 and 2, 4 and 5, 2 and 4, 5 and 7, 4 and 5. There's a little kind of slidey lick on the A and E strings. Hope that's helpful. Great question. Ritzenhoff says, hammer-ons and pull-offs seem impossible on a mandolin. I don't know how people can do them. There's a couple lessons on my website on how I approach them. I really, kind of the short answer is I think about, you know, if you got a big pot of boiling water, maybe your electric tea kettle broke, and you gotta heat it up on a stove, you know, regular old pot, and then pour it into a little teacup. You know, if you pour too slowly, you're just gonna like drip water everywhere. If you pour too fast, you're gonna pour water all over the place. But there's that feeling of like, oh, I know I need just the right amount of pour to get that water into my teacup. It's the same idea with the hammer-on. You need to be nice and kind of confident in your hammer-on. And work at it. I go more in depth in my lesson on MandoLessons.com. Gail says, just wanted to mention how much I appreciate and use the indexes to the songs and topics for the live sessions. Yeah, if you go to my website and on the left-hand side, there's the red donate button, and then there's a live Q&A. I think it's a green button, but I can't totally remember off the top of my head. I'll just go look. Yeah, green. It says live Q&A. You can click on that button. And then it says view the episode guide and view the index of tunes below those two little screenshots. And in there, a Mando Lesson Patreon member and general all-around awesome person, Denise, has put together these episode guides with links to particular points in all of these, because this is now my 44th one of these Saturday sessions, and there's a lot of information in here, and Denise has been really great and has sort of created indexes where you can search by tune or kind of search through what I talk about every week. Super great resource. She's also done the same thing for those of you on Patreon, so you can get the access to the patron-only Q&As like this, and Denise has done the same thing over there. So lots of hard work from Denise. Thank you again, Denise, because those are awesome, and it looks like people are really enjoying them. Uncle Bobby, thank you so much for the super chat donation, and we just got another one from... One of these days I'll remember how to say your name. Brabant? Apologies that I once again can't remember how to pronounce your name. I think I'm getting closer. Brabon? Something. I'm getting closer. But thank you so much. Oh, Leslie. Okay. And just above that, I'm now seeing your chat. All right, Leslie. That I can remember. Thank you so much for the super chat donation, Leslie. Cool. I'm glad that people on Facebook are enjoying MandoLessons. Yeah, thanks for... It's always great to have you here in the chat, and I'm glad you're enjoying the website. Thanks, Kelly, for the kind words. Frankie says, I love your three-finger style. As I have a lazy pinky, just recently got better on guitar, spending more time with mandolin and your lessons. Thank you. Cool. Yeah, I think kind of working on pinky stuff is helpful, but there's a lot you can do just with 2 fingers and 3 fingers. So it's definitely, you think about like Django Reinhardt, great gypsy jazz guitar player. He really only had 2, I think, working fingers on his left hand, and 2 of them were sort of unusable, I think because he was like in a fire as a child. I can't remember exactly why, but you see he just kind of, I think he has like 2 fingers that he could use, and he plays all kinds of awesome stuff, so you can definitely get by with less fingers, but pinkies are handy to use from time and again as well. Oops, let's see. Cool, awesome. The Pelican 3 says, what you showed me in A on those links, I used the same pattern in the key of D. So yeah, that sort of... You can do the same thing, just move it to the middle 2 sets of strings. And you can do the same thing in the key of G. Oh, I plan on the G and D strings. Oh, licks, not links. Yeah. I knew what you meant, but I also said links. Andrew, good to see you, and thank you for the super chat donation. Always good to have you. Oh, I got to see Mandolin Orange last night. I think maybe you and Denise were at the same concert. But anyway, yeah, Andrew is a great mandolin player. He just put out a solo mandolin album, but that I haven't actually listened to much of, but I really want to look at that. Yeah, so I actually have a lesson on that downstroke sort of style, something that Bill Monroe used a lot. And actually I was kind of using that. It kind of gives it's a little kind of choppier of a style. It's really kind of go. It's a little bit rock and roll, kind of like Chuck Berry style. And you sort of get this very insistent sound that you get from just playing downstrokes. But yeah, I do have a lesson again in techniques and fundamentals, probably in the right hand section. Let's see. Yeah, it's called consecutive downstrokes. It's near the bottom of the right hand technique section. And I'll probably do a better job explaining it in there and giving examples than I can on the fly here. But you got the right idea. Just play around with it. See, I mean, you don't want to get in the habit of always doing consecutive downstrokes. Like when I first started playing, I would only use downstrokes because I didn't know how to use upstrokes. But I think you're beyond that at this point. But it's definitely it's sort of like I had to like unlearn the bad habit of only doing downstrokes. But then you kind of, once you know the rules, you can start to break them again, and it's just kind of access to a different kind of high intensity sound that is really cool. Yeah, and Andrew uses that. I love it. Hey Denise, good to see you here. No, I'm glad to hear you were practicing. That's always good. Better than just twiddling your thumbs, I guess. But good to have you here now. And yeah, well, and anyone who's late, and Denise knows this, but you can always watch these. There's a playlist, or you can just find them on my channel after the fact. They're always archived. Denise does are awesome categorizing, and they're available to watch anytime. And you can find the rest of them on my channel, or you can there's actually, if you go to my MandoLessons page and click on that green live Q&A button, there's a past episodes link that links you right to the playlist with all of the past live sessions. Drowsy Maggie. I can never remember how that tune goes. I wish I could. Fare Thee Well, that was featured on Inside Llewellyn Davis. I don't know if you take requests, if you know it. I don't know. I don't think. I know I know of some songs called Fare Thee Well. I don't remember exactly which one. I saw that movie once, but quite a while ago at this point. I don't remember exactly that one. But I'll think on it, and if I can remember it, and if it's traditional, I'll try to do it. County Cork, awesome. AC, good to see you here. Again, Drowsy Maggie. All right, let me look it up. I can never remember, but we've got enough requests. I think it's on my website. Yeah, there it is. Do a little cheating. You guys may not know, but I use my website all the time when I can't remember how tunes go. Oh, yeah. Am I playing this right? Oh, yeah. Oh, I was getting the A part mixed up. There's that ending that I was not doing the whole time. So many of those Irish tunes, I really just kind of follow other people for the most part. I play on an Irish session in my hometown here every Thursday for the most part. And for the most part, I would say like well over 50, maybe over like 75, maybe over 80% of the tunes that I know in the Irish tradition. I don't really know how to play them on my own. I just kind of rely on other people to get them started, and then I go, oh yeah, I know this tune, and have a little better sense of it by the end. Fair and Tender Ladies, that's a great song. I cannot remember how it goes off the top of my head. Leslie says, can you talk about cross-picking? Yeah. Again, there's a couple lessons on my website on cross-picking in the Technique and Fundamentals section. In the right-hand technique, let's see. Oh, maybe not. Let's see. Oh, it's in the Strum Patterns series. Part 2 is on some like kind of cross-picking ideas. I think the general idea, there's no kind of set cross-picking pattern for your right hand. It kind of depends on what strings you're on. I think it can be helpful to pick 3 strings and use those. So if we're like in the key of D, for example, here I'll zoom in. So in the key of D, I might play just 2 on the G string, open, open. I think keeping your right hand, if you're in a reel, doing down, up, so you're going down on 2, up on D, down on A, up on D, down on G, 2nd fret, up on D, down A, up D, down G, up D. And then you can go to a G chord. Back to D. A, 6-2 open, G, 4-2 open, 2 open, open. And then just with this one pattern, you can get a lot of different sounds. That E string. But the main thing is my right hand really has that constant down up. So yeah, I think, getting your right hand to be nice and consistent is going to be a huge part of getting a good cross-picking feel. Any suggestions from Uncle Bobby? Any suggestions for practicing incorporating upstrokes in chord strumming? I think, again, repetition is a big part of it. I think something in general about like sort of creating different strum patterns is see if you can kind of invent some of your own. I think like starting with the most intense strum pattern is just down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and it's not going to sound very strum pattern-y. But what you can do is take that and then remove whatever you want from it. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little overbearing just to have down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. But let's take out all the ups. So that's all downs. And my hand still has to move up to go back down. So my right hand stays the same. Now let's take all the downs out and put the ups back in. Now let's kind of mix it up. We have down, up, up, 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 down, up. Or down, 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 up, down, up, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down. And my right hand that whole time was just going back and forth, and kind of the pattern appears when you decide when to and when not to hit the strings. And kind of getting that nice right hand, just like cross picking, is going to be a huge part of getting your upstrokes to sound right on strum patterns. Denise says, a great question. How about showing us what we can do with a simple tune like Angeline the Baker? Great question. I will do that. So I'll start out kind of simple skeleton melody, and then drop my pick and whack the mic all at once. Where did that go? There it is. Alright, so key of D, Angeline the Baker. Start out simple and get crazier as I go and try to tell you what I'm doing. In the B part, I'll add some shuffle. So my right hand's moving a little more consistently now. Adding some double stops with that shuffle. Mostly just a droning D string. That little triplet. Little variation. Triplet. Variation. Again, triplet. Variation. Play it down an octave. With some slides. Hammer-ons. Variations. Slides. Chord substitutions. Turn it into more of an eighth note melody. Just trying to fill in the holes. Something like that gives you some ideas of ways that I might go about spicing up Angeline the Baker. Cool, glad you're enjoying the website, Tidies. Catch up with the chat, and then pretty soon here it's going to be time to do our play along with Liberty. So if you haven't already, get your mandolin out and get it all tuned up. I'll finish up with some of these, try to burn through the rest of these chat questions, and then we will play a little bit of this tune. Okay, where'd it go? Cool, Nelly, glad you're enjoying the live streams. Cool, glad you finally made it to one. John Henry. Sure, I'll do a little John Henry. Little man. You gotta remember how it goes. I'll do it in the key of G. Oh, that's John Hardy. I can never remember how John Henry goes. Oh, no, I can't remember. I'll have to take a pass on that one. John Henry. Steel. The songs are similar in my head, and I often can remember one but not the other. This Gibson was made in 1924 for Lawrence there. Donald has a great question. Can you put the MuseScore files on your website? I've thought about that just recently. I don't know if you were the one who emailed me about that. It's definitely something I am looking into. It's going to take a little bit of noodling on just to kind of get the web design side of things, but it's definitely something I'm interested in doing. Because I think that could be helpful for folks who haven't used MuseScore. For those who don't know, MuseScore, MuseScore, all one word, it's a free kind of open source program for most operating systems that I use to make my tablature and sheet music and chord sheets that are on my website. And you can also, it has some functionality where you can, if I were to put it on the website, you could download it and it would deedle it out, so you could like play with the speed and things like that through like a MIDI setting. Lesson on Troll Polska. I love Scandinavian tunes. I'll play a Swedish tune here real quick. I can't remember Troll Polska off the top of my head, but I'll play a great tune called Ora Polska. I wish I could do that one for a lot longer, but we're running out of time. It's one of my favorite Swedish tunes of the moment. When You and I Were Young, Maggie. Can't remember how that one goes. Why is Maggie drowsy? That's a great question. Alright, I gotta chug through these, and then we're gonna play a little bit of Liberty, because I gotta get going right at 1 today. Maggie's up all hours managing house and chores while her man is at the pub. Probably. Angeline was why I was late. Awesome. Now I have some stuff to work on. Cool. Album with Scandinavian tunes coming along. Not very quickly. It's on my list. It's a long-term tune. I want to make a solo Irish album, a solo Scandinavian album, a solo probably New England tunes album. I've been busy with a bunch of other projects. I just did one with my friend. There's actually an album that I just put out, has a Swedish tune on it. Polska from Morko, great tune. That I just put out with my friend Noah. That's on my website, and there's also a video that came out last week, I guess. Maybe on Monday. I can't remember when it came out, but not too long ago. Okay, I guess a week or so ago now. I also have a different solo project that'll be coming out in a couple months, and then I'm also going into the studio at the beginning of March to record an album with a fiddling friend, and I'll be playing 6-string kind of old-time guitar backup on that one, maybe even singing a little bit, yet to see. And then it's going to be summer, so probably no time soon, but definitely still on my list. I have not abandoned that idea. I did remember, Denise, you might not have been here. I looked it up, and I tend to look it up right before I come on. So I have a bad habit of looking up what tune we're going to play together and then not playing it and then forgetting by the time it's 50 minutes later and it's time to play the tune. So I looked it up and then I played it as my first tune so that it would be in my fingers and in my head. And then we talked about it a little bit. And that might be my system from now on to remember how these tune, because I always forget what tune we're going to do. Lesson on how to read music for the mandolin. That's definitely on the list. Angeline the Baker can learn tunes with relative ease, but that type of improv you demonstrated has always eluded me. What's the best way to develop that skill? I think something I talked about earlier is one of the things that's helped me the most is just playing it over and over and over again. You know, play Angeline the Baker, see if you can set a timer for 10 minutes and play Angeline the Baker straight without stopping for 10 minutes. And you'll get so into the groove of the tune that you might make a mistake here or there, or just get tired of playing it the same way you played it every time, and just be like, all right, I'm going to hit some open strings, or I'm going to change the melody a little bit, and you'll feel that much more comfortable doing it because it's that kind of ingrained in your playing at that point. Who are your inspirations for mandolin, and what music are you currently listening to? I'm not listening to a whole lot. What have I been listening to? Not a whole lot of trad music. I'm always listening to a little bit of traditional music. Mandolin, Chris Thiele got me into the instrument. I love Sam Bush. I love Andy Statman, David Grisman. I had a big David Grisman period. Love Caleb Clauter's playing. Bill Monroe. They're all Norman Blake. So many good mandolin players out there. And what am I currently listening to? For traditional stuff, I'm listening to this great album by Dennis Duty, an Irish button accordion player. I don't even know what it's called, but it's almost all hornpipes and slides and polkas. There's almost no jigs and reels on it. But it's a great album full of awesome tunes. I've been listening to the new Sylvan Esso album. A little bit of Joanna Newsom. But that's a lot of kind of non-trad stuff. But I just kind of listen to whatever comes up. I love listening to different music from all over the world. Yeah. Cool. Tyon City is headed out, but thanks for joining us. Yeah, the Pelican 3 says, can you play some of the band on here? I've definitely considered it. That'll probably happen at some point. I'm playing an Ellis, and Noah is indeed playing a Pava. A question from Uncle Bobby in the video. Yep, yeah. Oh, Noah's got a great Pava. It's fun getting those two instruments together because they came out of the same shop. Yeah, Rhonda Vincent's great. She used to come a lot to Blistered Fingers Bluegrass Festival in Maine. Maybe she still does. I haven't been in a while because it used to happen right next to my house, and now it happens an hour away. And then I moved an hour further from where it now happens. Chris Henry, awesome. Okay, so let's do a little bit of... I said I wasn't going to chatter on too much, but then I did. But let's play a little bit of whatever this tune is. Liberty. So the way this works, we'll toss the melody and chords back and forth. I'll start out with the melody. You start out with the chords, and then we'll swap. So I play the chords while you play the melody. Probably a lot of you have done this a bunch of times at this point. But if you haven't, it's a lot of fun. I'll play it sort of slow. If you don't know the tune, it is on my website to learn. And see if you can just pick up a little bit of it by ear at this point. If you do know the tune, it's a great way to, try to get into the groove with it. Try to add some double stops, a little bit of improvisation, stuff like that. So, Liberty in the key of D. 1, 2, I'll play the melody. You play chords. B. You play the melody, I'll play chord. A2. B1. B2. You play the chords, I'll play melody. I lost count. Let's do the A one more time. I think that was 3, but what you gonna do? Here comes the B part. You play it. A2. B1. B2. Let's both play it together. I'll play some harmony. There we have it, a little bit of liberty. That's always a lot of fun. I got a little lost in the cycle there, so I might have repeated parts or skipped parts, but it happens sometimes, especially when you're just playing with yourself and don't have somebody else playing melody to actually hear. Whoops, sorry, whacking the mic again. But yeah, what should we do next week? We had already had that one lined up from 2 weeks ago, so while we finish up here, shoot out in the chat what you think we should do next week. Something pretty straight ahead, something that's on my website that people can learn if they don't already know. These are always a lot of fun, and I do one every week. So let's think about what we want to do next week. But yeah, thank you all so much for another great week here on the MandoLessons Live. Again, I do these every week that I'm around, so most Saturdays at noon Eastern Standard Time, and it's always a good time. Love hearing what everybody's working on, and I will see you, well, yeah, I'll see you next week. I'll be in touch with those of you that are on Patreon about the live patron-only Q&A, and we'll have a good time over there as well. Thanks to all the super chats that came in throughout the hour. And I'll see you in the next one. Flowers of Edinburgh. On Common Ground. let's do Uncommon Ground. It's a tune that I wrote, but I feel like we've talked about doing it on here in the past. Pelican 3 had John Hardy. That one I don't really... It's not on my website, and I only want to do stuff that's on my website at this point. That said, John Hardy would be a good one for me to put on my website if it's, in fact, in the public domain. Cool, another suggestion. So Uncommon Ground is a waltz that I wrote that's on the first album with Velocipede, which is me and my fiddling friend Julia Plum. We play a lot for contra dances, but this is a waltz that I wrote. It's on my website if you want to learn it. It's got a couple weird things going on in it, so take another look at it if you haven't already. And see, there's a couple funky chords and things like that, but nothing too far out of the ordinary. We'll have a lot of fun with it. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. That one's come up in the past, so let's do that. I'm honored that you guys like that tune. But have a great weekend, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for stopping in. Bye-bye.